New Action One Network. Turn up your volume.
Hi, my name is Shinga, and I'm the host of SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show here in Houston, based here with Action One Media Group support in their studio every Thursday night. So, my goal here is to educate the public in terms of space science, space flight, physics, astronomy, etc. All that cool jazz, and occasionally about aliens as well. Um, so STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, since that's part of the creative aspect, and mathematics is very important to me. And I feel like Action One Media's goal is aligned with mine. So together we hope to encourage the knowledge and especially the passion and interest in outer space in our Houston community and beyond. Look up because you never know what you will see. Tune in to SG2 on Space on Thursdays at 8 p.m. U.S. Central Time. Live in the studio of Action One Media, and this is your host, the one and only Shenga, S-H-E-N, last name G-E. I feel like if you have listened to me regularly, I don't need to say that. But if you haven't, SG2 on Space, we are the only weekly space show here in Houston, broadcasting internationally, considering that you can find me on facebook.com/The Shen Show or go on YouTube with a link that's way too long to say on air. But you can look up SG2 on Space. And Action One Media, we are a1.com. So if you guys wish, of course, you can always call in if you have questions or inquiries, and the number to call in 713-489-9250. That's 713-489-9250. You can also post on YouTube, comments, or Facebook. So in any case, so that aside, I would like to say, also support me on Patreon, patreon.com/SG2 on Space. So that way I can keep the show running and even make it even better, which of course everybody wants, right? So if you listen to this, support me. Okay, so today I figure we'll talk about one of my favorite topics, life. Where does life out here, life here? But before we do that, let's give what I like to do is give a calendar of events in terms of what's out there right now, as well as introduce a book. So the 70th IAC is happening right now. Some of you may be wondering what the heck is IAC.
That is a good question. IAC is actually the largest space conference in the world, and every year they choose a different place to showcase, not showcase, where essentially all the space agencies in the world congregate for a full week, and they have all sorts of talks and like sessions. European Space Agency, NASA, um, Japanese, Russians, and a bunch of other countries as well. So this year it's at Washington, D.C., at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. So I would say it's a little too late to go now because it's been going on since the 21st, basically the Monday, and it's going to end tomorrow. But just for future reference, or if you want to but see what they actually talked about, you can go to IAC2019.org. That's IAC2019.org. And they have a list of all the companies and some of the talks. So just to name a few of the companies that's there. Okay, so besides the governments entities, there's Lockheed Martin, Blue Origin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and a company called Spacebit, which I've not heard of, Airbus, Rocketdyne, United Launch Alliance, Jacobs. Okay, I can name on and on. All right, so there's a lot. And it's covered worldwide, so I don't really need to be the one covering it, considering how many news media is covering it. So, but yeah, so that's pretty cool. Now here closer into Houston, the one that we should note about is SpaceCom 2019, the largest space conference here in Houston, and SpaceCom is coming up November 20th. That's a Wednesday, and it is just 2 days. But the cool thing about SpaceCom is that if you go to the exhibit hall, it's actually free, all right, versus you paying a couple $100s, So you could do that. That's at the George R. Brown Convention Center, which is right in the middle of downtown Houston. And SpaceCom essentially stands for, they say it's America's Commercial Space Conference and Exposition, which is true because they bring a lot of established and new companies there, right? To see, business opportunities, work with governments, and so on and so forth. So, in any case, that might be quite interesting. Now, if you're in the industry or you're in the government, part of NASA especially, this one I would say is definitely more localized to America. So you can see if you can attend. And you can go to spacecomexpo.com, that's SPACECOM expo.com, to get more information. You can still register. So I have not yet decided if I will go, but obviously I will let you guys know. There's some other interesting conferences around the world I noticed. There's a machine learning congress that's somehow related to aerospace, which I found interesting. And that's in Helsinki, Finland, though, so probably not for anybody here. And it's this week. So, all right, me telling you doesn't really help unless you already knew about it. Now, what was really interesting to me is that I don't think I've mentioned Luxembourg in a while, but Luxembourg, which is a tiny country in Europe, has prided itself in terms of developing the new space industry. And remember, one of their main things was encouraging entrepreneurial companies to go there, and they would, provide a lot of seed funding, and so some companies have moved over there. So they are actually hosting New Space Europe 2019, November 13th through November 14th at the European Convention Center in Luxembourg. All right. Which is pretty darn cool. And so if you're a new space company, it might be a good idea to go check it out, right, and register. By new space, I mean you're a startup company, or you're basically not the traditional giant government contractors, okay? So New Space Europe, they claim they are already the new space capital of the world. Let's see. So this is the conference is to discuss ways to stimulate growth in the commercial space industry, including communications, remote sensing, investment, Earth orbit economy, and lunar economy. Wonderful. You got to think ahead. So, and it's the organizer is the Luxembourg Space Agency. Cost $225 to $550. Okay, all these conferences are going to cost at least $200. I suppose it's expensive to hold a conference. I've actually held one before, organized one, so I can see why they would charge so much. Otherwise, you would just lose the money. But in any case, if you got some travel funds or your company's willing to pay you or your government agency, then why not go, right? Or if you're a startup and is really looking for investors, that may also be good. So you can go to newspace-europe.lu. LU is Luxembourg's, country code. So if you go there, you can register and find out more. So newspace-europe.lu. From more of the science side, there's an International Institute on Physics and Astronomy, and this one is in Osaka, Japan, a place that I would love to visit at some point. And they have a really interesting theme this year called Unleashing the Prophecy in the Territory of Physics and Astronomy. That sounds quite dramatic. So, if you're doing anything in physics or astronomy, maybe you should attend. It's just 2 days. That's November 14th. That's a Thursday, all the way to November 15th, a Friday. All right. So, and lastly, I just want to mention another event. So similar in spirit as New Space Europe in Luxembourg, there is a Space Up Leicester. That's in the UK. So Space Up Leicester 2019. That's just 1 day. November 16th, it is what's known as a unconference, which some of you may be wondering, what the heck is that, right? Thankfully, I've been to one. So there was one organized in Houston a few years back, which was pretty cool. So unconference prides itself in being not a traditional giant organized conference. In other words, all the stuff I just discussed, imagine the opposite of that. That's not to say it's lame and nobody shows up. It just means it's affordable, for one thing. It's only $25. And it's more of a fluid fashion. It's not definitively defined on, each individual topic, right? So there's a user-generated conference, and you're not just sitting there at the conference, just listening. They for any unconference, they say it is open to participants. It is open to spectators to participate, so you can actually be a part of the conference. So it's not like you have to sign up, register. They give you a slot to actually give a presentation. No, you can just do it if they agree right there. So that's pretty cool, right? Anyways, but that's in the UK. So guys, once again, travel budgets, right? So in terms of books, I would actually like to. Not this one, although it's interesting. I would love to share this, but I think the math is a little hard. So I was going to actually talk about my book because briefly today, at least, I was kindly invited to be on Living Art, which is a local show in Houston highlighting the creatives in Houston, so writers and so forth, artists, musicians, whatnot, dancers. So this, I was asked on there, and I read a few of my poems. And guess what? Some of them have to do with space. I've read a few before, but if you guys want to check it out, you can find it. It's called Requiem: The Space Between Words. You can find it on Amazon. You just look at my name once again, Shinge, and Requiem: The Space Between Words. So with that, not going to take up too much of this time. So I think I've blabbed long enough. It's time for a break. All right, that's my dramatic effect. So after this, we will come back and talk about some weird life. In fact, did you realize that supernovas may have caused humans to be able to stand up straight? Yes, otherwise we'll be hunched over. If it were not for stars that exploded a couple hundred light years away. Do you believe this? Apparently, one scientific theory says it's true. We'll talk about it when we come back.
Put your money where your community know, some of the other things you got going on.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me. I feel like I'm in the presence of like celebrities. No, real fans
It's just the shades, man. It's the shades.
So I think like 2000.
Put your money where your community is. Get in the action at weareA1.com.
Growing up as a black kid in New Jersey, all I ever wanted to do was be a pro athlete. All of my role models were black athletes. And every time I would stare out the window and look at the sky and wonder what I'd be in the future, it always had to do with me catching some crazy football and scoring a touchdown. When it came to the point that I was told that I would not be able to play on an organized sports team for the rest of my life, it was something that I really didn't even know how to stomach in the moment. And I remember walking out of my cardiologist's office and just sitting in the hallway and breaking down for a few minutes just because it was something that I just couldn't plan for and couldn't account for. And I realized that in that moment, my entire life was going to be changed. And all of those dreams and hopes and aspirations that I had were going to go out of the window.
Action One, inspiring action. You're tuned into the all-new Action One Network. Turn up your volume.
Hi, my name is Shen Ge, and I'm the host of SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show here in Houston. Based here with Action One Media Group support in their studio every Thursday night. So, my goal here is to educate the public in terms of space science, space flight, physics, astronomy, etc. You know, all that cool jazz, and occasionally about aliens as well. So, STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, since that's part of the creative aspect, and mathematics is very important to me. And I feel like Action One Media's goal is aligned with mine. So together, we hope to encourage the knowledge and especially the passion and interest in outer space in our Houston community and beyond. Look up, because you never know what you will see. Tune in to SG2 on Space on Thursdays at 8 p.m. U.S. Central Time.
All right, guys, we are live and we are back, which this computer is not, so I'm not even going to look at it. Wonderful. Point is, you're listening to SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show here in Houston, Texas, with your host, Shen Ge. Episode number 49. Yes, can you believe it? It's almost been a full year. Actually, it has been. More than that. Because there were a few episodes, a few weeks, which I was not available. Point is, before we went on break, I went over the quick list of events that that's currently happening. Most notably, IAC is happening this week, the largest space conference in the world, the 70th one, so it's been around for 70 years. My gosh, international, and some other events in this book, which came out very recently, 2 months ago, which I would highly suggest you get. If you're into poetry, all right. So I wrote this. It's called The Space Between Words, Requiem. So you can find it on Amazon. Good stuff. All right. So wanted to talk about life and all that, and this is really interesting. Most of us, when you see the stars in the sky, you think, how is that going to affect my life, right? But it turned out stars may have caused, well, aside from the fact that, the sun provides warmth and all that. But I'm talking about stars like hundreds of light years away, all right? So you might be thinking, how in the world does that star over there so far away affect my life? Well, it turns out that it may have already. How? Supernovas. So ancient star explosions, in other words, a large star, not our sun, so a larger star than our sun, a more massive one, could undergo what's known as a supernova, releasing massive amounts of energy, okay? So that could have led early humans to walk up straight. This also requires you to believe in evolution, by the way. All right, which I hope science folks do. All right, so what is going on here? How does a massive explosion like so far away cause us to be able to walk upright? Well, here's what happened, all right? So, supernovas, apparently, they create a lot of energy, right? So, first of all, let me explain what happened. There was a pair of physicists, all right? Here's what they said. Millions of years ago, there were seriously exploding stars, not too far away from Earth, but still kind of far. They bombarded our planet with radiation, which ignited wildfires. So essentially, it created charged particles in the atmosphere, right? And they created wildfires. What did these wildfires do? Well, it destroyed the lush arboreal habitats. In other words, it destroyed a lot of trees. And so what did that do? Well, what lives in trees? What primates live in trees? You may think monkeys. Monkeys is a good guess. Yes, monkeys and orangutans. And what are they like? Do they walk up straight? No, they don't. It's why? Because they can use their arms and swing from tree branch to tree branch, right? Now imagine if you don't have trees. Can you do that? No. There's no point in having massive arms. In fact, if you can walk upright, you can see further, so you can see predators, so you can run away from it. There's more of an advantage in a grassland scenario versus a thick forest, right? So, in other words, that's what happened. So, supernova causes charged particles, cosmic rays, whatever, charged particles in the atmosphere, which then causes more lightning to be generated. More lightning means more wildfires are created. More wildfires created means massive amounts of trees are burnt down. Massive amounts of trees being burnt down means you got an evolutionary advantage if you can stand up straight instead of being hunched over. That's basically what happened, all right, in a nutshell. So how did they actually figure out, why do they even think these supernovas caused any kind of change to our atmosphere? Well, so what they looked at is they looked at iron-60 deposits, so the isotope 60 of iron. So the scientists calculated that a 50-fold increase in the atmospheric ionization, which is basically charging up particles, right, in the aftermath of just one supernova, which was believed to occur about 2.6 million years ago at a distance of 163 light years away. So what happened was that if their theory is correct, the cosmic rays that was unleashed by the supernova, massive doses of radiation, right, coming from 163 light years away. Anyways, they could have caused a massive wave of lightning strikes, creating like huge amounts of wildfires, all right, and change the entire landscape of of Africa, basically, from a verdant forest to grassy savanna. And, according to popular theory, the first humans are from Africa. All right. So this is not too far-fetched because biologists have, for a very long time, have presumed that why humans started walking upright compared to other primates is because the landscape changed from forests to savannas. So as trees became few and far between, I mentioned already between the prey and stuff, right? It's also more energy efficient to travel on two legs, right? So, which then gave bipedal hominids, which is us, the only ones. Actually, yeah. So we never walk on four, like our arms and legs, right? That would be weird, but you could do it, but that'd just be strange. No humans do that. You walk on two legs. All right. So this theory is not airtight, though. According to one of the physicists, Melo, it's difficult to connect cosmic rays and lightning strikes, which is actually pretty much required if, for this theory to hold any water. So, and he says you can't have instruments measuring lightning because you don't know where it's going to happen. Makes sense. Do you know where lightning is going to strike? Even if you put a lightning rod up, it doesn't mean it's just going to strike there. So lightning is a phenomenon that's still surprisingly not very well understood. So in any case, now there's also the note that this may not be the only reason, but it may have been a motivating factor. So there's definitely other reasons. It's not just because a star exploded 146 light years away that caused us to be able to walk upright. But all this is really interesting, to even think that. So now, as you guys know, the life has been constantly affected by stuff coming into our, so not just supernova radiation, but also saying asteroids, right? They say asteroids wiped out the dinosaurs, allowing mammals to form. I mean, mammals were already there, but we would not have become more dominant if the top predator in the food chain, dinosaurs, did not go away, right? Thanks to an asteroid strike. It also turns out that life could have come to Earth through something known as panspermia. Panspermia is a theory that life originated from elsewhere in terms of microorganisms. So think even further back. And there's also an interesting note that we actually may be carrying stuff that come into our our solar system. Earth may be offering our microbes, which hitches a ride on these interstellar asteroids or comets, which we have detected several by now. The first one was that weird Oumuamua thing, unless you believe that's an alien spaceship. That's a different thing to talk about. But regardless, anything that comes to our solar system comes near Earth, there's a chance that our bacteria and spores or whatnot jumped on there, right? And then that one would go to a different star system, right? And populate that, spread life there. It's entirely possible. So why don't we watch maybe a little short video, see what this is all about, this panspermia thing. And I'll talk more about this latest new theory.
We know that comets may have helped make conditions perfect for life on Earth to start. But a controversial theory claims that comets didn't just help life to begin. They may have brought life itself to the Earth. Are aliens living among us?
Something approaching fast.
The Earth is under attack. Alien life forms have us surrounded, and there is nowhere to run. The idea that aliens exist has fed our imagination and our nightmares for decades. But the truth could be even stranger than the science fiction. Some scientists believe comets delivered life to Earth from outer space. The theory is known as panspermia.
The idea of panspermia is that life on Earth did not originate on Earth, but it came from somewhere else. And in modern astronomy, that means from another star system.
So are we aliens brought here from a planet in a galaxy far, far away?
The idea is very appealing. One doesn't have to worry about how life began on Earth. You could simply say that it came here from elsewhere.
To discover how living cells could survive a catastrophic impact with a planet, Jay Malash went to California's Ames Research Center, home to one of the world's most powerful guns. The Ames vertical gun can fire projectiles at over 4 miles a second. In one experiment, Malash fired the cannon at a block of granite onto which he had seeded a sample of bacteria.
Our idea was to see if we could capture these very fast-moving fragments that came from the slab and whether the bacteria would be able to survive that launch condition, very similar to the conditions of launch from Mars.
Amazingly, the bacteria survived.
If there are living bacteria on a surface of a comet or an asteroid, an impact could eject them and bring them to Earth.
If panspermia is correct, it could change our understanding of the origins of life on Earth and possibly other planets.
Almost certainly the Earth is not unique. Our solar system is not unique. We already know about hundreds of other planetary systems around other stars. And just like we have in our own solar system, there were probably comets in those other systems that have brought organic material and water and possibly have seeded life in those objects.
Okay, so we are back in the studio. So SG2 on Space, episode number 49. You just saw a little short clip on what panspermia actually is, which is essentially that life on Earth may not have originated from Earth, but instead were carried over, originate from somewhere else in our galaxy. So our life may be imported. Now, it turns out that we may be exporting life outside of our solar system when stuff comes in here, carries it over, right? So there's definitely that possibility. So there's a new study out there that you can read called Exporting Extraterrestrial Life Out of the Solar System with Gravitational Slingshots of Earth-Grazing Bodies. It is being considered for publication in the International Journal of Astrobiology, and this is authored by Amir Sarad, a Harvard undergrad in astronomy. Wow, way to go. And Abraham Loeb, which is a professor of science and chair of astronomy department at Harvard University. So, Sarah summarized it by basically saying traditional theories of panspermia posit that planetary impacts can accelerate debris out of a planet's gravitational field and potentially even out the host star's gravitational field. Among other issues, this debris is often quite small in size, providing little shielding from harmful radiation for any potentially enclosed microbes during the debris journey through space. Okay, anyways, so you can read the whole paper. I'm not going to go too much detail into it for the sake of time. For the sake of time, I want to jump into talking about life on other planets, exoplanets, all right? So apparently, a new study shows that planet size does matter for habitability. I may have mentioned this before, but I will say it again. The Goldilocks zone, which we define as the area where basically, what is it? Not too close, not too far away, right? Too close, you get heated up like Venus and get deadly hot. Too far away, you lose your atmosphere and become frozen cold like Mars, right? So Earth is in the middle of this habitable belt. It's right distance away from the sun and all. So Goldilocks zone still applies to a degree, but remember I need to add that particular zone in terms of how wide it is, and I mentioned this in a previous episode, really depends on what kind of star it is, right? So a red dwarf versus a blue giant, for instance, would have a different range of potential orbits. Now, it turns out that besides the orbital distance from the star, there's also the fact that the planet itself needs to actually have a certain amount of mass, all right? So why is this? Okay, so you can find out more details in reading Atmospheric Evolution on Low Gravity Water Worlds. So published in Astrophysical Journal, lead author Konstantin W. Arnschent, a grad student at MIT. All right, so why? I mean, how does mass matter? Well, at a lower mass planet, right, the atmosphere, as a lower mass planet warms, the atmosphere expands. So it becomes large relative to the size of the planet expands. So what does that mean? Well, that means the increased surface area means the atmosphere can absorb more energy than it used to, and it can also radiate more energy than it used to. So overall, this expanded atmosphere stalls the runaway greenhouse effect, and they can maintain the surface liquid water, all right? So this means they can be closer to the star without losing water. So therefore, actually expanding this Goldilocks zone for smaller planets. So get it? So the habitable zone is not only dependent on the star itself, you know, how bright it is, but also on the planet itself. So apparently smaller planets may have an advantage here. Now, it can't be too small because if it is, then it doesn't have enough gravity to actually hold the water, right? So, for instance, Ganymede, Jupiter, one of Jupiter's moons, Ganymede is like less than 2% the size of Earth. The mass of Earth, excuse me. So that is way too small. So you can't do it. So the critical size, according to them, is 2.7% the mass of the Earth. So as long as you're above 2.7% of the mass of the Earth, you will be able to maintain an atmosphere. All right. So if you're smaller than that, you can't hold an atmosphere. All right, or water. So Moon is 1.2% Earth mass, which means nope, not a candidate. Mercury is 5.53%, so it could have worked, except as we know, it's way too close to the sun. All right. So, you can also use this model to look at moons. So, for instance, you can look at the moons around Jupiter, the moons around Saturn, and see, which ones could possibly have an atmosphere and so on. Now, in our solar system, we already know all this, okay? But it might be useful if we, look out towards other exoplanets and exomoons. Exomoons, which are basically moons around planets that's in a different solar system, different star system. All right. So, cool stuff, right? Okay. Now, another thing is I just briefly mentioned that Earth-like planets might actually be very common, which Earth-like meaning what? Rocky planets, right? This is the only kind of planet that we know could support life, okay? So, yes, I talked about water worlds before. Who knows? That may work. Talked about gas giant before. That may work also, but we can't be for sure, right? The only one that we know works is a rocky planet like ourselves, all right? So it's a good news that recent scientists have found that theorized that Earth-like planets may be very common. So how do they do this? They looked at a light from nearby stars. So many exoplanets, especially those with magnetic fields, which Earth has, substantial atmospheres, which Earth has, and tectonic plates, basically active geological, activity in the center, which Earth also has, could have conditions that allow life to evolve there, and those are just basically similar to Earth, right? So what did they do? Well, Edward Young, geochemist at the University of California, UCLA, I should say, Los Angeles, and other members of his particular team used data from Hawaii's Keck Observatory to study light from 6 white dwarf stars located anywhere from 200 to 665 light years away. What are white dwarfs? White dwarfs is eventually what our sun's going to turn into, right? Our sun's going to expand and then collapse into a white dwarf. Okay, so if you don't have enough mass to undergo a supernova explosion, you just turn into a white dwarf, which is what's going to happen to your sun. All right, so they basically, so white dwarf is a remnant of a star, a remnant of a star that is not as large as one that will undergo supernova. All right, so what did their analysis reveal? Well, 5 out of the 6 dwarfs, 6 white dwarfs, had a lot of fragments whose chemical composition is similar to that of rocks on Earth, Venus, and Mars. Right? So the researchers concluded that planets give rise to the fragments were made of similar rock. So in other words, this white dwarf actually contained, so it's like our sun eventually dies, right? And in that star, it contains pieces of rocks from Earth, all right? And human flesh. I'm kidding. Forget the human flesh part. Just saying that it gobbled up parts of Earth, right? So point is, by dissecting, essentially, which is really interesting, it's like you're dissecting a dead star, which is what they're doing. You can figure out what kind of planets were originally around that star. So if you found rocks in the white dwarf, so to say, of particular elements, you're like, it must come from planets that are originally rocky and had these minerals, right? Which is pretty cool. So, who knows? What does this mean? This means that planets like us could be very common. Life could be very common. Similar life to Earth life could be common. So now, how can we get more data besides just using giant telescopes on Earth? Well, I've mentioned this a million times before, but I will mention again. The Transiting Telescope, right? TESS, T-E-S-S, Transiting Exoplanet Survey Telescope, right? apparently TESS is going to collaborate with a $100 million breakthrough listen project in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. So TESS is not only going to be looking for exoplanets now, it now has an explicit objective to try to find extraterrestrial life, which is awesome in my view. All right. So, Pete Warden, Executive Director of Breakthrough Initiatives, a program that includes Breakthrough Listening Project. By the way, Pete Warden, I met him before. He used to be a director of NASA Ames. Now I guess he's doing something even cooler, or equally cool, I should say. So anyways, so he says, it's exciting that the world's most powerful SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, search, with our partner facilities across the globe, will be collaborating with the TESS team in our most capable planet hunting machine. So, cool stuff. TESS launched to Earth orbit in April 2018, right? Breakthrough Listen has been around for, I think, less than a year. So, both of them are pretty new. Okay. Now, in the short span amount of time, TESS, it's been around since April 2018. Okay, so about a year and a half now, it has spotted more than 1,000 objects of interest, all right? 29 of which are confirmed alien planets. I guess they have a massive amount of data to go through. All right. So, Breakthrough Listen is going to do scans of its own from Earth-based telescopes, but the organization will be looking for techno-signatures coming from test worlds. So techno-signatures are indicators of advanced alien civilizations. So there could be leakage from TV and radio broadcasts. Imagine if we get an alien TV show. That'd be crazy. We'd be like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? I don't know. Aliens probably watching our TV shows will be wondering the same thing. Like, what the hell? I know. I can't even understand most of the TV shows here, right? So, but anyways, regardless, when you see that, obviously, okay, it's intelligent life, all right? But also it could be regular size, like transits, like, right? You block out shadows. It could be a natural phenomena, or it could be something weird, right? If it has a extremely strange pattern, for instance. So Breakthrough Listen, SETI search combined with this, I am hopeful that something will be discovered. So speaking of the techno signature, actually, there was one recently. I've mentioned Bernard Star in the Tabby Star in the past. Now there's turning out there's another one. There's something strange that's going around star system HD 139139, sometimes called by the even more obscure name Epic 249706694. All right, so what is going on there? So this is believed to be a pair of stars that's bound to each other, nicknamed random transitor. So yeah, but you know, it is really strange since occasionally like it dims and then brightens up again. So, and it's random, it's not regular. So if it's a regular transit, you know, imagine this is a star, right? This is a star. So it crosses in front, like I'm Earth looking at this. When it crosses in front of my eyes, the star's light would be dimmer, right? That's how you detect it. But it's a planet. It's not going to speed up. It's going to go in the same orbit. So it would be a regular cycle, right? In fact, that's how they can determine the size and the orbital parameters of an exoplanet based on how regular they go around, all right, and how much the star dims, all right, the frequency. So now imagine, what if this was inconsistent? What if it goes around 10 days and the next time it dims was like 32 days later and then 12 days later? You'll be like, what the heck is going on? What celestial phenomenon could cause this, right? It's not regular. Well, it could be alien megastructures. Some kind of alien device. They're powering up their spaceships. Gosh, who knows what they're doing, right? Then that could mean the reason. Another reason could be, I don't know, interstellar gas somehow, some other stuff. Who knows, right? It could be a belt of dust, debris, some other things. But it could be aliens. Just remember, right? So, I feel like I've been talking way too fast. There's a good reason for that, because we got to get through these topics, right? So, was gonna play a short video about TESS, but I think for the sake of time, I just want to run in further. Let's take a short little break. We'll come back, and I want to tell you some stories about aliens that are already here, possibly.
You sitting on the internet all day, why not go ahead and fill out our survey? Man, you still here? Go on and subscribe. Man, you still here? Go ahead and fill out our survey.
For young professionals, for science and technology, for all media companies.
Join today. Get in the action at We Are A1.
Get in action.
Yo, we back at it again, baby.
What?
Get into action.
3.
Get in action.
Tell me what is the deal. Tell me what is the deal. So I challenge you today to start strong.
Get in the action.
Tell me what is the deal. Cause I'm calling for you.
Get in the action.
Can you feel that? See, I'm calling for you. Can you feel that? Yeah. See, I'm calling for you. Can you feel that? Yeah. See, I'm calling for you. Say how you really.
sound, we gon' start the revolution. When we turn up, we shut it down. We are skywalkers. This feels of my Kabbalah, illuminated properly in sight. Shows the man in universe and the creator's gift of life. When the earth collides with every piece of star from afar, there's a higher probability to find out where we are. Trapped in time and space, lost in this dimension. 7 sins committed daily. Never did I fail to mention this the rapture. I capture every piece of.
Okay, so a couple of alien stuff, which may be of interest. First of all, I recently read on the news that apparently Edward Snowden, who, you know, the whistleblower, right, for NSA spying on everybody, which we already know they do, no doubt spying on what I'm saying right now, but whatever. I got really no secrets, so it doesn't matter. Point is, so, you know, like any curious person, he found and tried to see if aliens existed, right, in any of those databases, and he didn't find anything. All right, which is, you know, so he said this, but the idea is that if we're hiding them, I had ridiculous access to the networks of the NSA, the CIA, the military, all these groups. I couldn't find anything. So if it's hidden, and it could be hidden, it's hidden really damn well, even from people who are on the inside. So, oh, by the way, this is Rogan, you know, the famous podcaster who interviewed him. My personal view, well, I wonder, I mean, think about it. That would be a secret beyond a secret, So he may have different layers of secrets. He may have been pretty deep down there, but not to the alien deep level where you know that aliens are real. I doubt there's that many people that has that kind of access. All right. So speaking of conspiracy theories, which people love to throw around, and I am not a huge fan of conspiracy theories, except I do find it funny and interesting. So there's something called a Black Knight satellite. You guys ever heard of this? There's a Black Knight, and no, it's not the Batman movie. If you actually look up Black Knight, what are you going to discover, you think? You're going to discover Batman. All right. That is or somebody, but or basically the comic book hero Black Knight. All right. So you're going to discover either one of those, all right? Or one of those literary stock characters. All right. That's not what I'm saying. So you just have to look up Black Knight satellite. So what does this theory claim? They claim there is a satellite in near polar orbit of the Earth that's of extraterrestrial origin. Near polar orbit means it's almost basically just going around the poles, all right? So there's satellites that go around the equator, there's satellites that's tilted at various inclinations, and it's near 90 degrees, that means it's going over the North and the South Pole, all right? So this is a near polar orbit. And they say this is of extraterrestrial origin. NASA is engaging in cover-up. Yes, NASA is always engaging in cover-up. I wonder why it has to be NASA, all right? Most likely, NASA's not covering up anything, honestly. Anyways, so supposedly there's a photo taken during one of the space shuttle missions, STS-88 to be precise, which showed the Black Knight satellite and is cataloged by NASA as a photo of space debris. So official story is that it is a thermal blanket confirmed as lost during the mission. According to UFO conspiracists, Black Knight is an artificial satellite of extraterrestrial origin who has orbited Earth for approximately 13,000 years. Wow. Okay. That is interesting. 13,000 years. And yeah. You know, I highly doubt that. I think any alien civilization, how should I put it, advanced enough would not just put some random satellite up there for NASA to be able to take a photo of. That's just silly. All right. Probably have some cloaking device, if anything. So, in any case, why wouldn't it? Why? Yeah, that's just absurd. 13,000 years. Okay. That's my view. Now, what is also interesting, is there's certain places in the world, right, that are hotspots for supposed UFO sightings. There's apparently one in the UK called Port Talbot, and I did not know about this. Talbot, Talbot. Port Talbot. If you look up Port Talbot on Wikipedia and look up UFOs, you are going to find absolutely nothing, because places like, I don't know, conventional websites, they don't really put that up there, right? Which I think is unfortunate. I think cities and towns, they should put stuff like UFOs, what are these stories around it, stuff like that. You know, you shouldn't just ignore it. Particularly since people from that city has said they've seen stuff. So, okay. So recently there was an interview with Michael Sheen, the film star. Anyways, he grew up in Port Talbot in South Wales, all right? So it's known for giant steel works, but he says, I think Port Talbot is on some weird alien map. Like it may be some sort of lay-by, little chef of the galaxy. Yeah, so aliens stop by there to get something to eat. Who knows? All right, so apparently a lady who lived next door to him, so he says this, right? I just quote him. The lady who lived next door, who was a very respectable lady and wouldn't make up stories, told us that one morning she was in the kitchen making a coffee and a flying saucer came down and hovered over her backyard. He and his dad had similar experiences. So he explained, one day I was coming home from school. I was just about to turn up the path to my house, and coming around the mountain was a formation of lights. There was a formation of some things coming around and going out across the sea and then disappearing. Then years later, on New Year's Eve, about 5 years ago, I noted this article was written to 2019, so basically 2014. Years later, on New Year's Eve in 2014, my dad, so his dad, who had not had a drink that night, went up to bed. He said he saw a thing in the sky with lights going around it. It was there for ages, then it shot off. My dad is a character, but is not someone who would make this up. So Port Talbot is some kind of hub. So yeah, no. Honestly, I think if you're, say, a respectable person who never makes up anything like this, why would you suddenly just make up a whole story that you see a UFO land on your lawn? Not land, but hover over, like that lady or his dad doing that, okay? So, now, what about myself? You might be wondering. I always tell you guys to look up. Well, I actually did see something this weekend, like a UFO. Of course, I'm not saying it's aliens, but I did see something completely unidentifiable, and I don't know what it is, all right? So, therefore, it's a UFO, whatever the reason, whatever the actual thing. So, my story is, it was at the northeast side of Houston. I'm going to have to find the exact address later. But essentially around, okay, I'll just tell you right now because it was a Water Lantern Festival, I believe. So it was 12044 Beach Street, 12044 Beach Street, I believe, in Houston, Texas, and that's like northeast side of town. And here's what ended up happening. Okay, so you go up there, and it's just next to water. All right, it's next to actually, what is this? San Jacinto River, actually. So near Highway 90. All right, around 7:57 p.m. on Saturday. And I have done a search, haven't found anybody. Saturday, October 19th. All right, so saw these 3 bright lights that were basically originally thought it was maybe a satellite. I mean, they were fairly bright, all right? They were brighter than the lights that were like commercial airlines bright, all right? I remember that being... Commercial airlines are easy to identify because they got that blinking red light, to indicate, hey, I'm here. So this thing did not have that. It was just 3 white lights, and it zipped across the sky, and then it seemed to like just hang around over there somewhere. Hard to estimate the distance. And then, in a shocking turn of events, it flew off super fast away from where I'm looking. All right, so towards the northeast, I would say. And then the lights were gone because it was traveling so fast. All right, it was faster than anything I've ever seen. And now, what is it? I don't know. Gosh, I mean, you know me, I would love to think it's aliens, right? But I'm not going to say it definitely was. Whatever it wasn't a normal airplane. So, anyways, another good reason to look up, right? You might be able to see things like this. And I was dumb. I did not capture it. It's just got to believe me. All right. Enough. Take a break, guys. And I'm sure you are... Why I say a break? So, you've been listening to SG2 on Space.
This is SG2 on Space. I'd like to give you guys a big, huge thank you for listening to the show. Our biggest contributor today in the comment section was Colonel Burton. He's been shouting out Shin all day, and Shin will read your comments later. If you'd like to contribute to the show live through phone call in next week at 713-489-9250. We thank everyone for contributing. Please continue to support Shin on Facebook.com, The Shin Show, or on weareA1.com/TV.
And for those of you guys who have a bit of money and are willing to support me, go to patreon.com/SG2 on Space. There's also a link from the Facebook page. So, yes, wonderful indeed. All right, folks, we need to wrap up here. I just shared my personal story, one of them. In fact, one of the only noteworthy ones in terms of seeing a potential UFO. It is a UFO, potential alien. So, with that, I'll close it off and say, guys, follow me. I think whatever Joy did had a much better voice than me in terms of that. But hey, I'm trying. She's like, oh my gosh, can't believe you said that. But anyways, this is Action One Media Group. All right. Lovely studio here. Be back next Thursday, 8 o'clock Central as always. And of course, you can watch all the past videos on Facebook.com/The Shin Show, and at least the past 20 episodes or so on the YouTube channel. So, all right, take care, and never forget, look up, because you never know what you will see. Peace out.
Peace, it's Brother Atum Ra, and you tuned in to Action One Network.